Patrick Henry, many, many others. They were meeting to discuss what we're going to do about England and some of the unfair taxes and laws they were putting on us. Some of them argued we shouldn't do anything because we were still the colonies of England. Others argued that we couldn't do anything because England was more powerful than we were. Peyton Randolph, who presided over the meeting, looked over at Patrick Henry and said, "Well, what say ye, Mr. Henry?" Patrick Henry stood up, looked around the church and said, "Why stand we here idle? Is life so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God! I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." And that was the beginnings of the Revolutionary War with England. A few blocks down.
Do you have a way I can get those into my computer?
A few blocks down from St. John's Church, around 23rd Street, be between the White Building and the Red Building. Another period of time, another war. The Civil War, or the war between the states, or as we refer to it around here, the War of Northern Aggression, stood the mansion of Elizabeth Van Lew. Elizabeth Van Lew was a Northern sympathizer. She was a Northern spy. It was said that she would hide up to 30 Union officers in secret rooms and passageways in her mansion and smuggle them out along with secrets to the Northern armies. She did such a good job that after the war, the Northern generals awarded her a position of postmaster of Richmond. And after her death, the city officials burned her house down. Sure it was an accident. But on the Van Lew estate, another important person was born, Maggie Lena Walker. Maggie Walker was born of African-American slaves, and she was the first woman bank president in the United States. She opened up the St. Luke's Penny Savings Bank in 1903, and that bank is still going today as Consolidated Bank and Trust here in Richmond. And she did all of that from a wheelchair. Now, those Union officers that Van Lew was hiding was probably escaping from the Libby prison. The Libby prison was located up and to the right about where that red brick building is with the green shutters, which is now the Virginia Holocaust Museum. The Libby prison had the most deplorable conditions from both sides of the war, north and south. And ironically, it held Union officers only. All the enlisted prisoners were taken over to Belle Isle, which is a mile and a half west of here, next to Brown's Island and across from the Tredegar Arm Works. Now, the Tredegar Arm Works produced all the arms and munitions for all of the Southern armies. It also produced the arm plating to outfit the Merrimack, so it could go out and fight the Monitor in Chesapeake Bay for the first class of the ironclads. And they rechristened the Merrimack the CSS Virginia. Now the Tredegar Arm Works is one of our Civil War museums that has been named the American Civil War Center, which I hope y'all get a chance to see that. Because if you do go there, after you finish touring the museum, go behind the museum. Because behind the museum is a full-life statue of Abraham Lincoln and his son Tad. After the April 2nd evacuation of the Confederate Army, on April 4th, 1865, Abraham Lincoln and his son came up in a rowboat with 12 soldiers. They walked down this street, crossed over Broad, and went over to the White House of the Confederacy. That same day, they came back down the street, got into their boat, and rowed back to their ship. On April 9th, 1865, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Grant at the Appomattox Courthouse in Appomattox, Virginia. Then on April 14th, 1865, 5 days later, Abraham Lincoln said, "The war is over. I'm tired. I need a break. I think I'll take my wife to see a play at Ford's Theater." On April 15th, he died. In 1969 and 1972, we had what they call back-to-back floods here in Richmond. And because of that, the insurance company stopped insuring everyone down here in Charcoal Bottom, so there was no growth. Then along came the flood wall, that large white wall on the right. Now we're experiencing an economic boom down here in the bottom. Right now, you probably can't even buy one of these old buildings. The flood wall was completed in 1994 by the Army Corps of Engineers. On this side of the river, it's made of concrete. It goes for 1.2 miles, and it protects our city from floods up to 40 feet high. The highest recorded flood was in 1799. It was at 37 feet. If y'all get a chance to go over here to the Virginia Holocaust Museum, I strongly suggest you put that on your tour stop. The director of that museum is telling the story of what he saw, what he saw when he was a small child of the German concentration camps, what led up to it, and how his family escaped. They reproduced everything that he said inside that building, from small towns to the tunnels his family crawled through and lived in for a while. They've also brought in one of the original boxcars from Germany that sits out in front. And on our right, this portion of the dock wall, this is built in the late 20s, early 30s, but you still see the iron cleats where the ships would tie off, sitting on the ledges. And if y'all notice this roof line underneath the railroad trestle, this roof line is covering over our continuation of building the new Virginia Capitol Trail. We are in the process of linking the old Capitol Williamsburg with the new Capitol Richmond. You will be able to walk or ride a bike from here to Williamsburg. I suggest that bike be motorized, 55 miles. We have plans on having it completed by 2013. We started at both ends, and right now we're in the plantation areas off of Route 5.
Sure. It's like, I'm not sure.
Before I take y'all back in, I was out here doing the tour one day, and I made this observation. I just wanted to share it with you because I don't think you can see this anywhere else in the United States. Right up ahead in front of us is probably the best representation of the history of transportation for our country. Up ahead is the 18th century canal system. Right above that is a 19th century train system. Right above that is a 20th century interstate system. Of course, right above that's the 21st century, all cross each other in time. Yeah, the train station, that clock tower to the right above the flood wall, it belongs to the old Main Street train station. It was closed to transportation for many, many years. It was famous for shipping out troops during World War II, as a matter of fact. Built in 1901. It's now reopened as the Amtrak station. Bringing back to this area the hub of transportation that it used to be in the 1800s.
Steeples, that's what I got. Alright.
I need everybody to bring their arms, hands, heads, fishing poles back inside the boat. Get ready to go back to the flood wall. It looks like the opening has gotten smaller since we came out. These black rings that she just pointed to that are hanging on the side, these are reproductions of the rings that were discovered out of the James River. And 4 of these canals were built. The bateau men would load up their bateau boats up in the mountains, and they load them up with about 9 tons of cargo. Then they come down the James River to actually shoot the rapids with their boats fully loaded. Going back was a different story. Going back, they had to get out of their boats, walk up the rocks, and look for these rings that were hammered into the rocks, slide their ropes through the rings, and pull their boats up through the rapids. That's how they got around before the canals were built. And about 2 blocks north of where you got on the boat, actually across the street from Sinead's Irish Pub on Carey Street, Thomas Jefferson introduced the bill for the separation of church and state. That led to the religious freedom for our country. And did you know that Richmond was the first city in the world to have an electric streetcar system? We started calling them trolley cars. Richmond has been the capital city since 1780, the capital of the Confederacy from 1861 to 1865. In fact, a lot of the beginnings of our country began here from as early as 1607 when they landed at Jamestown until 10 days later when Christopher Newport, the captain of the Susan Constant, one of the 3 ships at Jamestown, came up the river and he found the falls of the James. He reported back to England on what a great place he had found. He had rapids to turn water wheels for grist mills and flour mills, and he had the James River that would take him out to the Atlantic Ocean for shipping. So they started to build one of the first permanent English settlements we call Richmond. And at this point in time, I'll do my very best to answer any questions you might have, or I can give you all a history test.
How long have you been doing this?
I started today.
Yeah, I know. Fantastic.
I'm into my 12th year.
Really?
Yeah. But that didn't get you out of the history test. The history test consists of 1 question, and it is audience participation, which means you yell out an answer. The question is, Richmond was the first city in the world to put this into a can. What was it?
Beer. Beer. Tobacco.
Tuna fish.
Wait a minute, hold it. Somewhere I guessed it was beer. Richmond was the first city in the world to put beer into a can. Now, what was the name of the beer? Nobody would never guess this. Shades. It was called Kruger beer, out of New Jersey. They came to Richmond to test the theory of putting beer into a can instead of a bottle. They came here because we had a company called the American Can Company. We later changed the name to Reynolds Aluminum. And if y'all out and about and you see me on the boat, you yell out, "Hi, cotton." And I'll yell back, "How high is your cotton?" You've got to come back with a snappy answer. But I've also learned that to ask you that question if you're there at one of our bars on the canal walk, I've gotten strange answers that way. And if all y'all would do me a big favor, and remain seated until I tie the boat off. I sure